All right, we're doing the daily space weather once again, as we do every day. Looking at a plasma filament here in the northeast limb of the sun. This is the 171 angstroms view. And we see a prime example of a plasma filament being ejected there, raining back down onto the corona. And no X-ray flare associated with that, at least not detectable from Earth. So a prime example of the way we can see a massive filament eruption with no X-ray flares. Here's the view zoomed out. My personal favorite, 171 angstroms. There is a large coronal hole rotating into the Earth-facing region right now. Magnetic connection could already be happening with that. We'll analyze it in a minute. And here's a proper view of that coronal hole, 193 angstroms. And there's a close-up of that again. This is about 9.5 hours of solar activity just on this calendar date. I would invite our viewers to check out helioviewer.org, as it's a great site. You can do all kinds of interesting things here. Let me just show you an example of what we've set up here. You can make your own composite view. Here we're fading in between the 304 and the 171 angstroms views. Could be interesting. Check out helioviewer.org. You can make all kinds of custom movies, just like Ben Davidson. And we're going to look at all the data that we typically do on most days, but first let's talk about smAshomash.com/forum/mission. And the mission is to assist, study, and report the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects, to connect and consult with media organizations and multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon, and to not be ossified in our beliefs, and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. If you're wondering, the videos are largely uncut. So please become a patron, and thanks to our latest patron, follow us on patreon.com/smAshomash. This channel's source of income. If you want to support the channel, please do it that way, or via PayPal. Links in the description below the video to that also, as well as our Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. If you're in the market for CBDs, please visit our links in order to buy them and help us out that way, and help out your health that way. Perhaps get yourself off of a prescription med. No, this is not medical advice. We've moved on to the real-time solar wind, and we could be establishing a coronal hole magnetic connection right here. We see the phi angle is at 199. Could be a magnetic connection kicking in right now, raising the risk of earthquakes. We see a sputtering in the solar wind density. Could be erroneous data. Not exactly sure on that one. We're going to look at the ACE in a minute. Solar wind density currently shown at around, it looks like it's around 10 protons per cubic centimeter, I'll say. But we've seen some density spikes there. We should see some oddities in the Magnetosphere movies as a result. Solar wind speed at about 370 kilometers per second. And there's the solar wind as measured from the ACE. And we see a corroboration of that data, an indication that it's probably correct. Just giving a little plug here from Soho about the J HelioViewer, which is a piece of software you can buy. You can download actually from helioviewer.org. So check that out if you like. We will leave links to that in the description below the video also. Also, plugging spaceweather.com, the site where I first started studying the sun back in about 2002 in an in-depth fashion, covering things like red sprites and trolls on a regular basis, as well as following near-Earth asteroids. We've got one showing up at 2.7 lunar distances in about a week here. Spaceweather.com. Good times. Next, we've got Magnetosphere movies, and we're expecting to see some odd density spikes in here. Let's see what it does. And there are some extreme density spikes there. Super weird. Never quite saw one like that before. Please leave a comment if you have. The density spikes look real, folks. Here's the pressure. And we're talking magnetohydrodynamic pressure. Keep in mind, folks, this is 4 hours of data. It's quite anomalous today, extremely anomalous today. And we'll be seeing if we see oddities in the ionosphere layer. In fact, this one's so weird, I'm going to let it play a second time, so you don't have to rewind the video and deal with YouTube's software. Wow. That certainly looks like some energy from space, folks. And yeah, it looks like their model could even be breaking down there to some degree. Moving on, we're going to look at ground geospace magnetic perturbations here at the poles as well as on the global view, as we expect to see some aspects of that current pulsing through the whole planet, and indeed we do, according to the ground-based magnetometers. Here's 4 hours of data based on that. We're looking at the portions of the planet where the Birkeland currents go in and out. The Birkeland currents go in, the Birkeland currents go out, the Birkeland currents play pinochle in your snout. Here's the global view, and prepare to see pulses go across the whole planet here, associated with those sudden spikes in the solar wind. There you see those happening. We're going to rock that back in a minute. First, let's let it play through, and then I'll slow that down for you. For all you viewers who don't want to do things like press pause and click the wrong thing and end up on a different video and have the desire to throw your phone on the ground. So there's one of those pulses. Very anomalous, especially considering there are no major solar wind components there, just small little sputtering spikes indicating massive amounts of current traveling right through the planet. Check this one out here also. That latest massive pulse was at right when we're doing show prep here, 9:41 UTC. So this is something to watch throughout the day, as this is odd and anomalous. KP index at 1, as the KP index has given us the finger, I think, right now. What's up with that? Here's the latest ionosphere image. We're going to load the movie also. And here's the animation of that. Looking at the last 6 hours here. South Atlantic anomaly looking anomalous as it usually does. And there's the latest image. We're looking at 9:30 here. And the F2 layer is looking very discharged on the nighttime side. Nothing to comment on the GOES X-ray flux, except that it's been flatlined since July 7th. We haven't even seen a B-class flare. Electron flux is a little bit choppy here. That's something to watch throughout the day also. Also, if you're interested in the total electron content forecast, well, let's play the video for you for once. This has to do with things like GPS errors, folks. And GPS errors are at nominal ranges even on the equator. Nothing too exciting going on there, and let's move on to more interesting things, like the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which is above predicted values, but still back to solar minimum conditions, back down to 67. This is a measure of the outer corona, folks, and this tends to be directly proportional to sunspot number. So it's something that we use to measure radio frequencies coming out of the corona, and it's a way to measure the sun's activity when there are no sunspots. Here's the GOES magnetometer looking very choppy, and we're going to look at that in the Gong 2 just after this to see if we can make any forecasted predictions here on the magnetic environment. Since magnetism is very hard to predict, in fact it's totally unpredictable, this data is 1 hour and 3 minutes old, and we are seeing suspended plasma bunches. Here you see this little red bunch and this little green bunch. This portion now is active. It is about halfway in between stereo A and the Earth, so it should be rising pretty soon. We should see some activity rising there, folks. That is always an indication of a more magnetically active region. Moving on. Here's where planets are located. There's where they'll be in 1 week as we approach another new moon. If you're interested in what's going on above your head, check out in-the-sky.org. Make yourself a custom sky map. I use Sky Map 2, and I orient mine to the south because in the northern hemisphere, that's where your ecliptic is. And in-the-sky.org will even allow you to animate your map and figure out things like when Deneb will set. There it goes. There it goes. Oh, 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 oh! It looks like it's setting just before 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Have you ever checked out Galaxy Zoo? Well, check out Galaxy Zoo and classify galaxies. We need human beings to do this, so this one has features and a disk. It's got some spiral arm patterns and stuff, so let's just show you how this happens. It's not an edge-on disk, clearly. Is there a bar? I don't see a bar in this one. Is there a sign of a spiral arm pattern? Well, there certainly is. I don't know why I have to click twice every time. It looks fairly tightly wound to me. I'm going to say I see 3 spiral arms. There is a bulge. And if you think you see a bulge, please leave a comment. Don't be grotesque. Is it merging or disturbed? I don't think so. Do we see rare features? Well, we see a lens or arc, possibly. Also possibly a ring. Definitely dust lanes. And that's it. So head to zooniverse.org. Check out the Galaxy Zoo project. This is real science, folks. We need citizen scientists to do this. And those weird colors there are artifacts, so don't freak out about it. Let's do a plug. Shout out to David Dubine. We're going to release a uncut phone call that we had with David Dubine yesterday. And we're going to do a light plug of the Grand Solar Minimum, a book that he's produced. It's also a massive link library. And part of the reason we're talking about this is because we're cited in the book. So check out this book. I'm going to leave a link to where it can be bought. This site right here, payhip.com. We'll leave links to this also. It's $12.95. So check that out. Some interesting information as we collaborate with Mr. Dubine on a regular basis. Let's do the earthquake rundown. Nearly 24 hours ago, we see a Turkish earthquake at a 4.4 magnitude. Here's a deep quake near New Zealand. That one's at 110 kilometers. Heads up New Zealand for a larger quake to your north. 5.0 in Indonesia. That one's also at depth. Warning of the possibility of a larger quake at the surface there. We do have an article about earthquake prediction today that we're going to show you also, as well as the full PDF to that. 5.2 at Japan. I believe this is the largest quake we've seen in the past 24 hours. It's a 6.0 at the Solomon Islands. Here's a 4.5 at Chile. That one's at depth. We've been warning for Western South America to have a large quake for a solid week now. Perhaps that incoming coronal hole will cause that to set off. 4.5 at Japan. 4.1 at Chile. 4.0 at Chile. 4.8 at the North Mariana Islands. 4.6 at Argentina. That one's also at depth. So again, I can't stress it enough. Western South America, you're looking at a large quake coming soon. Magnitude 6 and 7 earthquake droughts, as we are seeing right now, always end with large earthquakes. Here's a 5.0 at the Philippines. That one's at depth also. Heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. Papua New Guinea seeing a deep quake. 170 kilometers depth, 4.0 magnitude. Heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. 4.5 at Japan. 4.7 at Tonga. Here's a 4.9 at Bouvet Island. Located very far south. Looks like the border between the African and Antarctican plates. 4.9 at India, and lastly, just about a few minutes ago, actually, a 5.4 at Papua New Guinea. Here are the pressure maps on windy.com. We're going to advance that one day. Looks like there is a low pressure system slowly approaching South America. That is when I would expect the large quake to hit, and it's acting a little oddly too. We'll pause that there. That's about 24 hours from now. This low pressure system, if this makes a turn to the due east, that is an earthquake risk factor for Western South America. Believe it or not, it's got to do with real earthquake prediction, folks. Speaking of real earthquake prediction, we'll also link you to this Zero Hedge article, which is about some new techniques. It's basically just studying earthquake swarms. We've got the full PDF also in the links below this video. Again, there's the windy pressure maps. And let's move on to the Volcano Rundown. Volcano Rundown. Karimsky, back on the list, exploding, producing an 8,000-foot ash plume on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Mount Aso, producing a 7,000-foot ash plume there as activity continues. Sanjiang-Api, producing a 10,000-foot volcanic ash cloud. Explosive activity continues, as well as at Tukono, which is producing a 6,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl, ongoing emissions likely, 21,000-foot ash plume there. Explosive activity. Fuego issued the following report, and it's totally blank. Nice. Revenador, 17,000-foot ash plume there, explosive activity. Sabancaya, explosive activity, 24,000-foot ash plume. And Nevados de Chilean, issuing some weak emissions. Please do not attempt to do a back handspring over Nevados de Chilean. It could be bad for your health. Here's the null school jet streams in the Western world. Southern jet stream is quite meridional. It's doubled up, and it's all over the place. Convective patterns on the equator move in the absolute wrong direction, as well as convective forces kind of running the show in the northern hemisphere. Let's look at the eastern world. For all you viewers from the other side of the planet out there, there's the situation there. And convective forces still running the show in the northern hemisphere for the most part, and very, very powerful jet streams pulling cold air out of Antarctica, depositing it in Australia, as well as pulling equatorial air out of the equator and causing heat waves in other places. Standard meridional jet stream flow model. Here's a U.S. Doppler. We see some possible Sasquatch activity near central Iowa there. Please let us know. Leave a comment if you see a dimensional portal open up in the sky and a guy looking like Chewbacca comes out of it, and psychically connects with you and takes you on a psychic voyage where you tiptoe through Chewbacca's tulips. Massive storms over Kansas, and they're stagnating, folks. It does not look good for Kansas. Here's a water vapor situation, and we see that moist air is abutting this dry air right here, and it's going to cause it to stagnate. Those storms are going to stay in place for a while, as this massive air is going to just hold that in place. The jet stream is going to dip down here, and that cold massive air is going to just keep those storms moving real slow all day. Here's a zoom into that area, and it's looking like a messy day in Nebraska. This is going to slowly start to move to the east here as this massive air starts to get pulled south. Moving on. To invite our viewers to make sure you watch our other videos, like the That Is an Ass and That Is a Hole in the Ground section. A now spliced section that used to be part of these space weather videos, but we've separated them like two angry children. So here's a 304 angstroms view. You see that filament eruption. It looks like it did indeed rain back down in the corona. We're looking at 9.5 hours of activity here. There's a zoom out, complete with timestamps. So quite a bit of filaments. Again, there is some activity rising. Solar activity is otherwise very low. Check out those abnormalities in the magnetometer, as well as in the Magnetosphere movies throughout the day if you like. It's something weird to watch. We are out of here. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.